Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jaden, and today I'm going to be telling you about the 13 books I read in June. The first one I read was One Death at a Time, and I rated this one 2.5 stars. So after meeting at an AA meeting, Natasha and Julia worked together to clear Julia's name of murder. So this book took me forever to finish. It dragged on, and I was also on vacation, so when I wasn't busy I was trying to read this, but it wasn't hooking me. I just couldn't connect with the book. I wanted to DNF it because I started to not care after a while and I got bored. There were too many characters to keep track of, and none of them I cared about. Plot was interesting but failed to interest me, especially since the setting took place around film, and I went to school for film, so you would think when they were talking about film production and directors and writers, it'd be really interesting. No, I couldn't concentrate, I couldn't focus, it just wasn't working for me. Natasha, who goes by her last name Mason in the book, she was annoying and constantly eating. That was her character trait, was always she was eating. It was really annoying. I am giving props for this book for mentioning Save the Cat because that's a known screenwriter book. But other than that, I really hated this book. The second book I read was Not Even Bones, and I rated that one 3.75 stars. So after releasing An Unnatural, her mother was going to sell Nita is sold in their place and must try to escape. So this book has been on my TBR for a while, and then I realized my library actually had it while I was looking at their new YA books. So I'm like, why didn't I know this before? So I picked up the book, and the plot started immediately and didn't go where I thought it was going to. There was a lot of times that I was talking to Nita, our main character, because she was just being really stupid. She's kept in a lab, and then she would escape the lab, and then she would go back into the lab, and then she would escape it again, and then she would leave the lab and escape it. I'm like, dude, stop doing this. You're gonna get caught. And I think she did multiple times. I'm like, stop being freaking stupid. And she did it repeatedly. The book ends on a cliffhanger, but I don't feel intrigued enough to read more in the series just because of her thought pattern of what happened. Because of the cliffhanger, I'm like, I don't think that's how she thinks it's gonna go, and I'm pretty sure I'm right, and I don't really want to read more to know if I'm right or not. The third book I read was How to Have a Killer Time in DC, and I also rated this one 3.75 stars. So Oliver gets put on assignment in Washington, D.C. with photographer Ricky, but one of Oliver's old friends gets murdered while they're in D.C. Oliver and Ricky work together to figure out what happened. So the book was slow to get into, but once I was able to get into it, it was a fast read. I did like the story and how it came out. I did like how we saw both Oliver and Ricky grow with each other as the book progressed. There's like an Elon and Tesla ripoff. They're not. It's practically Elon and Tesla, but it's given a different name. And the ending is incredibly rushed, and we just get a quick rundown of what happened after our main characters are rescued instead of going through it. It's just a quick rundown. Oh, this is what happened, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, didn't like that. Then the resolution is only 4 pages long because it was so rushed. This is the first book in a series, and I'm not interested in reading more. The fourth book I read was By the Book, and I rated this one 4.5 stars. So this is a modern retelling of Beauty and the Beast, and it's part of the Meant to Be series. And this is my favorite book of the series so far. The story was really well told, that even references to Beauty and the Beast didn't feel forced like I've read in some of the other books. They felt more like Easter eggs. It felt like its own story sprinkled in with these references. How Isabel stays with Beau, our beast, felt kind of clunky to me and didn't really work for me. And the way they talked about writing made me want to start writing again. I haven't done it yet, but it did make me want to start writing again because I used to do that a lot when I was younger. I did like the ending with Beau's notebook and how he really feels about Isabel, and how his character progressed through the journal entries that Isabel made him write in the beginning to start his writing process. The 5th book I read was Kiss the Girl, and this one I rated 4 stars. So this is a modern retelling of The Little Mermaid. I enjoyed myself reading this book because The Little Mermaid was my favorite movie when I was growing up. At times there felt like there were so many characters to keep track of in this book, especially with Ariel's sisters and Eric's band. References didn't feel forced and felt organic. I really liked the tweets, texts, transcripts, emails sprinkled into the end chapters talking about Ariel and Eric as their singers in this world. I wasn't a fan of the 3rd act breakup, though I felt like it ended well for both Ariel and Eric. The 6th book I read is Breaking the Dark, and I rated this one 5 stars. So Jessica Jones investigates a case where a pair of twins return her from England acting unworldly. I 100% had Jessica Jones in Kristen Rieder's voice, as I am a fan of the show starring Kristen Rieder. Same for Mike Coulter as Luke Cage and Finn Jones as Danny Rand. Jessica Jones is one of my favorite characters, and I really enjoyed reading this book and reading stories about her rather than just reading them from a comic book, which is where I get most of my reading from Jessica Jones from. I really didn't know how the story was going to go, and I really enjoyed the author of this book before. Good villains, and I liked the cameos from other heroes. Exposition didn't make you feel lost, even though this is the first one in the series. I want to know, and I want to read the other books in the series when they come out, since I really enjoyed this one and I wouldn't mind owning it. The next book I read was The Love Lyric, and I rated this one 4.5 stars. So after meeting a few years prior, Iris and Angel have to work together to promote Iris's company's brand. But can sparks fly with these two? So it was a really fast read. I finished it in a little more than a day. I liked learning Angel's history with religion in his childhood home, but I wish that got expanded more. More sex scenes in this would have been great. 3rd act breakup, hated that, and I really didn't like Iris's ending. It felt rushed and it felt like it didn't give Iris any growth when it came to her being her family's support system. After she was learning to get help from others and have others take care of her rather than the other way around. Because of her ending, the growth just felt washed away. I do want to read the other books in the series. This was like the 3rd one in the series, but you don't have to read the other ones to know what was going on. But I just really didn't like Iris's ending. It just felt really stupid to me. After that, I read Will They, Won't They, and I rated this one 3.75 stars. So after coming back, the final season of the show that made her a star, Lila must deal with Shane, her co-star and her ex-lover behind the scenes, but can they work through their history and make something new together? So it was a fast read. Lila and Shane were kind of annoying and assholes, which is supposed to be the point, as they have this history and then they're getting to the last season of their show. So they're supposed to be these kind of assholes to each other. It just got really annoying really fast. It just felt like I was telling them to get over it already. And when they did, it felt like whiplash. Like, where did that come from? And then they were happy with each other, and I'm like, there's still like a good chunk of the book left. And I'm like, okay, something bad is going to happen, because they can't just be happy for the rest of these pages. Something bad is going to happen. And I was really hoping there wasn't a 3rd act breakup, especially since the entire book was lead up to them getting back together. I'm like, please don't do a 3rd act breakup. I was going to be so pissed. It didn't happen. It was a cop-out, but I was prepared to be mad, especially with all the lead up to it. There were good sex scenes in this book, though. There were a couple times I had to figure out placement of hands. I wouldn't read this book again, but I just kind of enjoyed myself. After that, I read Scythe Sparrow, and I rated that one 3.75 stars. So after trying to murder someone and getting hurt instead, Rose gets help from Theon, a local doctor, but will sparks fly with this killer and doctor. So this is the 3rd book in the Ruinous Love trilogy. I haven't read the other books, but I think I will after this one, but I don't know for sure. I felt during the end I was missing info, especially when it came to what happened to Lark, because things just happened out of nowhere. I'm pretty sure it's a reference to what happens in Leather and Lark, but again, I haven't read Leather and Lark yet. But like, something happens, and then the next thing you know, Rose goes somewhere, and the next time we see her, she's hurt, and I'm like, when did that happen? Like, I'm pretty sure the author was trying to, like, skip over that because it was probably already seen in Leather and Lark, but I just felt really confused. Like, what just happened? Plot of the book also happens immediately in the first chapter. I very much felt like Fionn had instant love with Rose, especially when he allows Rose to stay with him when she's recovering. Also, Rose isn't a very good serial killer, and it's kind of mentioned that she's, like, killed people before, but she's not very good at her job. And the synopsis made it seem like she was good, and it's not very good. And then the plot of the book is kind of jumpy and, like, goes nowhere. Like, we get what happens, and then stuff happens, and then it's time jump of 6 months later. And then a few chapters later, then it's a year later. And it's just very jumpy, and a lot of stuff doesn't happen. Nothing happens sort of in this book. Like, I enjoyed it, but, like, nothing happens. There were good sex scenes, though, and I liked their chemistry. It was an interesting book, though. After that, I read A Serial's Guide to Marriage, and I rated this one 4 stars. So Hazel and Fox are serial killers who stopped when their daughter was born, but when Hazel accidentally killed, where does that leave them? So the book was very cute and kept me on my toes. I didn't know what was going to happen next, especially when the main kill happens early in the book. The ending with all 3 of our semi-main characters felt a little too wrapped up for me, and one character solution came out of nowhere. If Fox and Hazel had just communicated with each other about what happened in the beginning, there'd be no plot for the book, and none of the drama and tension would have, like, happened. None of this, oh my gosh, is he cheating me? Oh my gosh, like, she's mad at me. Like, if they just had talked about it in the beginning, most of the drama in this book wouldn't happen. There really wouldn't be a book because of it. But it's like, if they had just talked, all of these problems would have been resolved. The 11th book I read was Worth Fighting For, and I rated this one 4 stars. So this one is a modern retelling of Mulan. So this is, right now, the last book meant to be. There might be more, but this is the 5th book in the series. So the book was very cute, and I audibly gasped a few times. I liked, if you didn't know this was a modern retelling of Mulan, then that's good, because it did feel like its own story. Like, there were references sprinkled in, but they didn't feel forced, other than one of the main character's cousin being named Mushu, and I'm like, okay, and like Mulan and Shang, and I'm like, okay, if you didn't know that, this could be its own story. Mushu could have been disguised a little bit more, and I cringed when Mulan's identity got revealed, but I had fun reading, though I also felt that Mulan and Shang fell in love way too fast, and I liked how the entire plot revolved around trying to acquire a whiskey farm. I had a lot of fun, especially in the last 30 pages, and I wish James got in more trouble for what he did. And I think the Christopher, Ryan, and Thomas in the book are supposed to be references to Mulan's 3 guy friends in the original movie, but they didn't really talk to Mulan. They didn't really do anything with Mulan, but I wish they would have been more like her 3 friends in the movie. The 12th book I read was The Gatsby Gambit, and I rated this one 3.5 stars. So this is a murder mystery mixed with The Great Gatsby, and I really love The Great Gatsby. So I was really disappointed with this one because I thought it was also going to be similar to Beautiful Little Fools, which I read in 2022, and I really, really loved that book. Great Gatsby, well, The Gatsby Gambit had new characters from the OG book with a different victim that happens very fast in the story. Even with all the new characters, it wasn't hard to keep track of them, which was great. I hate when I have to keep track of so many characters. I didn't expect that whodunit, and I couldn't stop reading during those tense moments during that reveal. There was also some foreshadowing that seemed like a throwaway line, but it was important. I just was disappointed in this book because I really enjoyed The Great Gatsby, and I really enjoyed Beautiful Little Fools. I thought this was going to be in the same vein, and it wasn't. Like, this story kind of changes The Great Gatsby. Like, if you didn't know, like, if you remove The Great Gatsby elements, this could have been its own 1920s, 1930s murder mystery. And, like, this book changed the story of The Great Gatsby. Important side characters are removed. They're kind of tossed away in a throwaway line. This happens in the summer, but not like the summer that we see in The Great Gatsby. And I just did not enjoy myself that much while reading this book. And then the last book I read in June was All the Other Mothers Hate Me, and I rated this one 4.5 stars. When the boy who has bullied her son goes missing during a school trip, Florence tries to figure out what happened and if her son is involved. So I finished this book in a little more than a day, and I had a lot of fun reading this book. I didn't think I was going to enjoy it as much as I did. I enjoyed the writing style a lot, which drew me in, and I liked Florence a lot as a character, even when she made very stupid decisions, especially with what she does to a certain character. I'm like, I understand why you're doing this, but this is not going to help you. This is not going to help. And then we get, like, a subplot that happens more than halfway through the book, and I'm like, how is this relevant? Like, it becomes pretty relevant, but I'm like, this would have been better if this subplot was mentioned earlier in the book, and then kind of, like, talked about instead of, okay, now it's more than halfway through the book, I need to wrap this up. Let me put in this big subplot that tells us who the whodunit is. And I'm like, this could have been done better. And I didn't really like the ending with her neighbor. I just thought, like, it was trying to tie up a loose end, and it didn't really work for me. It was just a little too ambiguous for me. So those are the 13 books I read in June. If you have any recommendations for July, let me know down below. Otherwise, I'll see you next month. Bye.